afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our discussion about data privacy trends. As you all know by now, this has been a very hot topic in the last few years due to the extensive legislation on this area, not only in Europe with GDPR, but also in other parts of the world, which are imposing quite extensive obligations with regard to how we can process and use personal data in general. So it will be for sure a very interesting discussion. My name is Rosanna Guiman. I'm a lawyer. I'm a partner at Privacy One, which is a boutique law office specialized in data protection. And I'm very happy to be here today with two very special guests, which are have a very extensive experience on data protection. Cristina Năstase, yes, she's the data protection officer for Banca Comercială Română, BCR, in the media. And Dragan Oleșcani, who is a member of the board in Legis.
Hi.
Okay, so we thought, given how important this topic is, we thought to try to see where it will go in the future, how we can get help from technology in order to implement our data privacy programs. I know that when we talk about personal data, sometimes we only think of very common personal data, such as name and email address and phone number. In reality, we need to also take into consideration much more other type of information, many more other information. I don't know, we can talk about location, we can talk about behavioral data online or in the real world. Many other things can constitute personal data, and for this reason, putting together a compliance program can get quite complex. So we need to look into how we can get help from technology as well. It will be very important. So we can see that everything around us is much more technologically driven. So I want to engage our guests here today also, just to share how they see all the efforts that are done currently by data controllers companies everywhere with regard to how we can handle data privacy programs. I know that from our experience, it's been, let's say, very difficult since we only have like general rules. We don't have very specific guidelines on how such a compliance program needs to be implemented. So there is the advantage of having flexibility with that, but also the disadvantage of, let's say, not having a hidden path that you can work on. So maybe I will start with you, Cristina. If you can share how relevant is data protection for you and for your company now, and how exactly you handled the compliance project from this perspective in the last years.
It is very relevant, but it became after maybe 6 years actually, it became part of our day-to-day activity. We defined our privacy program back in 2016, and not only the project having an end date and or start date and an end date and the timeline is like you will ever finish being compliant with GDPR. But actually, continuously living framework, like an umbrella under which you further build on your GDPR practice. We managed to do a lot in this 6 years. We did start it without technology. At that point was not so available as it is today. Starting with privacy notices and tailored information notice for the clients, consent management, targeting operating model for data breaching, the data subject right process, of course. But also we managed to implement some technical requirements as in anonymization and minimization. We also have a privacy by design concept, deletion, of course. We managed to do a lot. It was not necessarily very easy, but what we did a bit different, I would say, and it really was very helpful, was to implement this privacy framework in a decentralized way. Having task ownership in business, so in every division or department, we have some people, some business who act as a kind of a first layer for privacy matters. They are not only the first line, but they are also a semi-prolongation of the DPO. In big organization where you have thousands of people which deal every day with data, for them, I think it is more easy to just
the chair to the colleague and ask if they have a question. Instead of reaching to the DPO, sending an email, they might not really be comfortable, or they might think they have a silly question, and you can miss important information. In this way, we do have a process. They have those first layers, how we call them. They have a process of escalation, of sending the information to the DPO department. They, of course, benefit from additional training, in-depth knowledge. They have proper instruction in place and so on. So they could really do this first leg. And this for us was really very helpful, because in this way, we were more hands-on. We were more aware of the problems which are happening at the level of each unit, which I don't think that you can get this level of information if all centralized in one place.
I totally agree. So basically also creating like ownership and responsibility in other business areas, not only in the data privacy department.
Exactly. And this was really very helpful to see where we should focus on or what we should change much faster than our audit plan assessment. It was really a good choice, let's say, because we choose that, or we choose to implement it like this in 2017. And it was a question
paying off.
Yes, and now it's really paying off. Yes.
Very, very good. And I also like very much that you mentioned that this is not something that you do and it's done and it stops. It's a continuous process, and you need to, every day there is something else that needs to be taken care of with regard to processing personal data.
Important that this program or project, however everybody calls it, not to be seen as a finite project, because it's not really ends ever.
Day to day.
Something, that you constantly need to do as part of your daily activity.
Dražen, maybe how do you see, how mature do you think companies are in general with regard to this aspect? How do you assess the market, let's say?
So when I listen to Christina, I see very, very mature company, because this is the way how it should be, because global trends are that privacy is basically everywhere. So in almost every data set, you will find some personal identifiable information, and you need to protect it and handle it properly. And you can do this if everybody is aware of what they need to do and how they need to do, and how what they need to do interact with other people in the organization. So this kind of organization that they have in Bechere, it's like recommended type of organization and best practice. But what we see in the most of the other companies in the market, they don't have this level of awareness. They say, okay, yes, GDPR, it's a regulation. We need to be compliant. So we will appoint a data protection officer and we will have some procedures. And then if we will have these procedures, follow those procedures and have some sheets and some documents with some impact assessments, we will be compliant. And yes, that's like
Put everything in a drawer and forget about it, and that's it.
and actually, it's like a bit old-fashioned approach. And what we are seeing quite a lot in the market, that we actually need to bring all these topics to the customers and explain that this tick box, checkbox compliance is not enough. Not because we want to give them more work to do, but this is for the benefit of their customers and employees and data subject, and also for the benefit of the company.
So basically, you need to kind of educate them a little bit.
Yes.
In order to, let's say, okay, sell your products, of course, but the main objective would be
yes. And
awareness.
I can say when I compare different industries, I can say that banks are maybe most mature that area because they are used to have to be very, very regulated by the national banks and regulatory agencies. So they very early accepted those trends. And they really, back in 2016, 17, and 18, they have heavily invested in internal development of their systems to support data anonymization and data removal that are required. But still, there are so many other processes within this landscape that should be automated, that are part of such a program that is long-lasting and continuous, because GDPR is not only this 94 articles. There are a lot of recitals and a lot of new developments and a lot of new trends that we will discuss later. Everything is continuously changing, and things are continuously happening. And
yeah, so if I were to draw a conclusion, basically, okay, it applies to everybody. So the regulations, rules on processing personal data, they apply to everybody because all companies process personal data on some level. Of course, the more complex your data processing activities are, the more you interact with individuals, the more tasks you will have to consider. And also, I think it's important to underline the main objective of this regulation, which are to kind of empower the individual, protect them, and create a context for them to have control over their personal data, over who uses it, who can be shared with. Transparency and proportionality are the most important rules. So companies, when implementing any compliance project, should have these aspects in mind in order to create like a long-term compliance environment in their organization, not only some paperwork, as you mentioned, that we put in a drawer.
Yeah, and one thing that is also important is actually maturity of data subject, because most of the people still don't understand what are their rights with their data. So over time, they will have more understanding about ownership of their data and their rights. So that will create more and more data subject requests, more and more complexity, more requests for opt-in, opt-out, for some consents. And also it will create a more intensive development of data wallets that will be centralized for different industries or for different countries, different markets, where actually people would be able to monetize
Their data.
personal data and actually get value and sell these data to different providers and actually make revenue and benefits. Currently, especially with big US e-commerce and social network platforms, they are just getting your data, they're using your data, and they're monetizing your data. And actually, I think in some period that would be between 5 and 10 years, every individual would be very well informed and knowledgeable about the value of his personal data and how he can, for example, I don't know, if you want to have a new mortgage, then you can say, okay, this is my personal data and I would offer it for, I don't know how much, lei or euro for 6 months to get best possible offers from the banks in any market. And whoever wants to contact you, you will be able to get maybe some revenue or some discounts or some better offers using your data.
It seems a bit utopic at this point, but I won't contradict you. It's very possible to get there.
But this is where this idea is going. If you own your data, you can.
The very next level, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. With regard to data subjects, their rights and requests, I think we were also discussing a bit earlier. It's also a matter of not only raising awareness on this topic, but informing them, like properly educate them on what exactly they can do in this respect. Because in our experience, we see a lot of data subject requests. However, most of them, unfortunately, are not raised in good faith. They are like they are seen as a mean to getting something else from that company. Unfortunately, we see this quite a lot, where the GDPR flag is being waved, but in reality, they are teasing, or I don't know, in some way trying to obtain something else from the companies. Which is quite interesting, but
You have these situations.
I have all kinds of situations. Not necessarily teasing, maybe, but clients do use the GDPR rights in order to also solve some other product issues or services issues. I think that now they are at the point when they realize that they have these rights and they are somehow treating them together with consumer protection, because from client perspective, I don't think that this boundary is very clear, which is consumer protection, which is data protection. From their perspective, is their relation with the bank, is their issue with the product or service or their desire, and still they are still somehow treating them together. And yeah, but from our perspective, let's say it's okay as long as there is a real thing in it. Yes, the teasing, we had some cases, but on the other hand, even GDPR says that up to a point you cannot answer. You can stop answering to the client anymore if not a real interest there. But we still have a lot. I mean, the Romanian market, at least, has a lot of data subjects combined. Yeah, privacy plus consumer.
But you always have as a first step in your workflow in the process, validation of the request. And basically, if the request is valid, then you process it. And if it's not valid, you just inform the data subject that this is not valid.
It's not only about validity. I mean, they are a request valid under GDPR, but their intention is not to genuinely exercise their right, like obtain some information. They kind of try to push for something else, maybe. So, but I don't want to, let's say, push too much the discussion into this topic. It's just something that we see a lot in practice.
Maturity of the
Exactly.
market.
But I think it's a normal process. Like people become aware of this, and it needs to settle a little bit and to have also some education on this topic. It will take a few more years, I expect, and then things will settle. Christina, would you mind sharing with us maybe if you have seen measurable benefits from like creating this compliance program within BCR?
Yeah, actually, I saw some measurable benefits, and the good thing is that I was not the one seeing as DPO, but business did and pointed out to me, which was very satisfying, professionally speaking. Once you manage to get over that mindset that GDPR is only about legal consequences, the legal constraints and sanction, I think that you can really see benefits. For example, we have a storage saving and increased performance of IT assets after implementing real anonymization and deletion processes. My colleagues were the one pointing out, oh, look how good it's working now, or, oh, super, I have additional space, which I didn't really thought before that I can have it without paying, but just making, let's say, a more deep cleanup in the data. So yes, you can have additional benefit, but I think it's important is that when we build our data protection processes, not always come with completely new processes. Meaning that in the banks, for example, we have, way before GDPR, we have data quality processes, which can help you on accuracy. We have client complaint processes, which can be helpful on data subject rights. We have risk management processes, which are always helpful to the privacy assessment. Just try to embed data protection processes into existing processes, adjust them, improve them, enhance them, whatever. In this way, colleagues from business who are actually owning these processes will get more valuable information, will get more knowledge on data protection because they will be part of the adjustment of those processes. And in this way, they will see the benefits, really. I mean, I don't think that is the role of the DPO to put benefits and add savings on the paper, because it's true that the DPO needs to know the business very well. But I think that the real people who can see those benefits are colleagues from business. And if you can manage to find this common language or common understanding between us and the business, then it pays off again. So we had some good experiences here. And this also comes from this decentralized framework I was telling. It you can have really measurable benefits.
Overall, let's say, improvements on all various layers of activities in the company.
It's true that you cannot get here or get to this common understanding overnight, and it takes some effort, it takes some perseverance. You don't, as we always say, you should not give up. But at the end, yeah, once you left aside just the image of GDPR regulatory requirements, which is constraining me to do something, and manage to embed it, I think that they are the ones who can really benefit the most out of this merging of processes. let's say.
Rajan, what about your partners? What feedback do you get from them with regard to privacy steps?
Yeah, so I think there is one more important aspect of GDPR, and those are those big fines. Because if you don't have the proper program, then you are in a big risk to get those fines, and some of those fines were like hundreds of millions of euros. And also, if you get fined, it's also reputational risk for a big company. So those are also two things that you should have in mind. But in most cases, in most companies, that's the feedback from our customers and partners. It's still not big enough pain. So it's still something that's like nice to have, and I can streamline my processes. I can save on storage. I can do things properly, but we need some like stronger business case. And basically, what we are doing with our partners and customers, we are actually supporting those business cases where privacy is heavily involved in some industries. In profit center and processes, they are actually critical for making money. So, and I think this is also next step, because you will not be able to do a lot of stuff in the future without being compliant with privacy regulations.
So it's much easier when there is a return on investment, because
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. So I can give you one example that is quite interesting. So it's from pharmaceutical industry. So all big pharma companies, they are having a very, very strong research and development department. So they are finding and creating new substances that would be like future medicines. And actually, before going to market, they need to do clinical trials and approvals with drug administration agencies. So for those clinical trials, they need to work with patients, and they need to work with patient data, which is very, very personal. Not just names and addresses, but also very sensitive health data. And they need to share this with different partners like hospitals, universities, institutes. And if you are a global company, you are doing the same clinical research in many different countries and different languages, different scripts with the different regulations. And basically, you need to know what to do, what you can do in real time. So you need to have some kind of ethical and legal store for all the consents to be able to go through this process faster. And regulations are now that complex that many companies are just in a situation that, okay, it's better to do nothing, to be on the safe side, and to wait to have clear picture, than to do something that would result in a breach or fine.
So avoiding the risk.
Exactly. And down the stream, so basically all the analytics or artificial intelligence models or everything, prediction, relies on data. So basically, in such cases where privacy is really, really embedded in those processes that are really creating value for the company, it's essential to have this kind of program. Also, one important thing is things where are processes where you should interact with other companies in the market. For example, this is example from banking. So if you want to have a mortgage, you need to have insurance policy for your house. And actual insurance policy is issued by insurance company. And when you come to the bank, you don't have the bank doesn't have the access to data that you have with the insurance company. But if you give the consent, and if insurance company and the bank can communicate to share this data for this specific insurance policy with the bank, this process becomes more easy and more straightforward.
Streamline. Yeah.
So such business cases where actually you bring value are very important for the development.
I agree. I mean, I think you pointed out very well that the two main incentives for implementing compliance programs are either the fear of fines, so sanctions, or the fact that you do get quite easily a return on investment on specific activities. Because otherwise, the I don't know, the approach is, okay, I will handle it at a later stage. I mean, or at least there is a tendency to do that. I think.
But it's like, you know, everything is becoming digital. So all the big companies are getting their digital transformation program. They're becoming data driven. And actually they are looking how to monetize the data. And data privacy is like the cornerstone of this monetization. Mm-hmm. And basically, you'll see, I will show this later in the presentation. Gartner says privacy, it's in center of all trendverse. So instead of metaverse, they created trendverse. So all the trends, all AI, user experience, everything relies on privacy. And basically, this is the way where the world and all the big companies will go. And some really advanced companies that are leading their industry globally, they're already going.
They are embracing it.
They're embracing,
not fighting it.
Yeah. Yes. So you always have this, you know, early adopters, then majority, and latecomers.
I saw a presentation some days ago of a provider trying to convince its client to develop some kind of privacy programs, and what we were talking earlier, and he had a title saying debt, taxes, and managing privacy. So they could really understand that it is continuous. It is nothing that is going to stop. And the future, of course, is more and more regulatory and more focused on privacy. I thought it was very funny. I don't know if he managed to get some clients with that title, but yeah.
So, Dražen, you already touched a little bit on this, but what do you see other trends or the main trends for this in the next years? If you were to maybe summarize even from what you've mentioned before.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned a few things, but trends would be more data, more digitalization, and more ways how to monetize. And of course, there will be more breaches and more fines because our experience is, so the bigger the company, the bigger the chaos. So we all have the idea, okay, so like the Amazon and Facebook and Google, they are like super cool, well organized, but those guys are actually paying the biggest fines. And usually in the companies, the problem is not in their, I don't know, core system, CRM system. they are really, really well protected and organized. But problem is that there are like zillion people in 1,000 different departments who are putting Excel files on some shared drives or whatever, and those files with really sensitive data are not well protected, and they're causing those breaches. And one of the trends would be also for all those companies to get much better grip on the data they're having. So data discovery in structured and unstructured data to know where all the data is, to remove data that is duplicated, unnecessary. So that would be one of the biggest infrastructure trends. And actually, those data privacy regulations are really, really helping you with all the cybersecurity stuff and attacks and your potential exposure to data breaches, because they help you to define your processes, how to de-risk your environment. If you don't have hundreds exposed Excel files with the personal data on your shared drives, if you delete those files, nobody can steal them and misuse them. We had a situation recently in Croatia with one telco operator where this such Excel file was hacked from their system, and they got fined for that. But the most important thing is they were hacked by a 14-year-old kid from 8th grade who was
The kid was a genius or the security measure for
Yes.
which one?
Or somewhere
Or
in
both.
between. Yes.
So I mean, if you are you have this kind of relatively weak protection and exposure, then it's really big threat. So have more and more complexity, and you will have also more awareness, both from corporate side to protect the data, and also from data subjects what they can do with their data.
Okay, so if the trend is more data, and it's definitely more data because we can see it everywhere around us, then yes, as a consequence, more complex compliance programs and more vulnerability that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. So and also this data privacy technology software market is booming. So it's one of the B2B software markets with the highest growth rate year over year. So it's more than 40% year over year. And I think last year it was like $1.7 billion. And in 2029, it will be like $26 billion. So that's the result of company.
And of data being more and more valuable, as you've mentioned.
Valuable, sensitive, it must be protected and also used for creating value, like those cases. Also, I mean, in a big city like Vienna or Bucharest, you don't have like only the city with like one controller. You have like 30 or 50 different controllers, because you have city transportation, you have parking, you have utilities, electricity, water and sewage, kindergartens, schools. So all of those are different organizations that they have their own data, and they are not allowed to interchange those data. So I think really, really big next step for data privacy would be when these big municipalities and also states will become aware of what they need to do and what they can do.
A bit scared by that at the same time, if we are to be honest.
Well,
Tina, I think it will be useful not only to share the happy part of your story, but maybe to explain if had some challenges or obstacles.
What would privacy be without challenges?
Exactly. We can learn
Yes.
from them.
We did have some challenges. Starting with the friend or foe paradigm from the very beginning. I think this was our first fight, let's say, from private professional perspective. To managing to convince business, this is a bit what we talked earlier about the fact that we are not here only to implement a legal requirement, but we are here to help them, support them into reaching their business objective. And this, I think that it was the hardest and the longest part of our journey. It's important to get to a step where you don't have to constantly push for things to happen in this direction, and to receive from them information or proposal of processes or improvement and so on. But this, I think it was the biggest challenge. I am, let's say, one of the luckiest DPO on local market, I would say, not only banking industry, but I did have the full support of the management board from literally day one. And this helped to push the program into organization, helped to have enough resources to be able to do this. So from this perspective, it was a challenge. It was long, but it happened at the end of the day. And the most nice challenge, let's say, I had was to put up the right privacy professional team in place, because there were not a lot of professionals doing privacy before GDPR. And then in 2018, there was a boom with a lot of people doing it, but it was important to have a little bit of experience, but to be open-minded, to be kind of person that can integrate or understand the business, to be part from the same organization, let's say. It's important not to be seen as, I don't know, somewhere there looking down and saying this should be done.
you cannot do this.
Yeah, really, but someone that people reach to, because otherwise I don't really think that you can do it properly. Just how Dražen was saying earlier, checkbox. Not enough.
Exactly. And this way, I mean, everybody in the organization gets to understand that GDPR is not here to stop business or to stop processes,
It's very important.
but you just need to kind of perhaps sometimes rethink the way you do certain things and create the correct context around it.
The return of investment.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the trends. So like you have all these PrivTech. This PrivTech is like those specific platforms, and actually this is not something that should be like checkbox and a standalone system where you will have, I don't know, registry of process activities. This is actually something that should be integrated with other systems and part of this ecosystem and landscape. So this is something that would bring privacy in the organizations to the next level.
For you, did you automate any of the processes? Did you take advantage of the technology in your program?
We did, yes, for some of the processes. Record of processing activities, for example, privacy impact assessment, legitimate interest assessment. Here we do use some automated process, a platform helping us to make it more efficient and more faster. But we do plan in the future to expand this automation to other processes. What I think is important is for us to manage to automate somehow more processes or processes which benefit to more part of the activities from the bank, not just to add automated processes over other automated processes which are already in place. And here I think that is our biggest challenge in the future, to try to identify them and putting them together into one automated process, which at the end could benefit 3-4 divisions or
Integrate somehow.
Exactly, integrate somehow. As I was saying earlier, I am not a fan of adding processes over the banks. You can imagine how many regulatory processes we have. Everything from IT asset to third parties and so on. So it's important that our processes, which will be on third party, IT assets and so on, to be integrated somehow with the other regulatory requirements. But looking at the future, privacy requirements to come, technologies to come, I really don't think that you can keep up if you do not automate. Nobody will hire an army of people that will constantly do things manually, Excel, Word, and so on. So you will need to automate, keep up, and be ready for the future.
Definitely part of the way where things are going. I mean, there's no point in fighting it. Embrace it because it will help everybody do their job better. So if you were to have a recommendation or advice for companies, or why not data subjects, what would you suggest?
For companies, I would suggest to look very careful to the future of the privacy, because if it's not here, very soon privacy will do the difference in business and will be a real competitive advantage. And very important, do not nominate just one DPO and this is it, because this is not privacy program and one DPO cannot do a lot by himself. As I was saying earlier, I'm a bit lucky, but there are a lot of companies who still have very few resources in this area, and those people cannot get that company to a reasonable, let's say, level of maturity just by themselves. So if they don't invest now, the future will come and will not be ready. I mean, GDPR, looking forward, it's the basis. You cannot keep up with the future if you don't have at least the basis. It's 4 years later already. And for the data subject, I don't know, maybe to start putting privacy of one of their criteria when they choose service providers, because it's important. If they will want in the future to use their data for their own benefit, if they want their data to be safe and so on, it's important that their data will end up with companies which have a minimum of privacy requirements implemented, or a constant, actually, care of their data. And otherwise,
I think that's a very interesting angle, in the sense that data subjects should not only, let's say, benefit of the rights that they are granted under GDPR, but also put pressure on the market, on companies to kind of prepare, process data in a more lawful manner, and help them protect their data better by asking questions beforehand, being more careful before entering an agreement, before choosing a certain service, like selecting from the market the service provider that has takes better care of your
Exactly.
data, stuff like that.
They also have to be a bit diligent when they are giving away the data. I mean, it's clear that all companies need to comply with privacy requirements, but this does not mean that data subjects should not be a bit more diligent or a bit more proactive when doing whatever they are doing with their data when asking for a service or a product or whatever need they have. So
Yes.
they can choose now, which is very important.
Exactly. What about you, Dražen?
Yeah, so well, my recommendation would be very simple. So for the companies, they should use data privacy manager to make their privacy processes. But we really see how market is changing and advancing. So Croatian unicorn Infobip, so they are doing this. They have this messaging platform. So when you get some PIN code by SMS or by message for, I don't know, some payment or activation, it's usually behind it, it's either Infobip or US company called Twilio. So they are like two biggest competitors in the market. And usually they're doing this for big banks and telcos and e-commerce providers. And they're doing this worldwide. So they have privacy team in Zagreb of 20 people who are like super skilled and super experienced. And actually, why the privacy is so important for them? Because they are third party. They are processing data of their customers. And if you are processing data from some of the biggest global banks and biggest global players, they will do the really, really good and deep screening of your internal processes and what you do with the data and are you compliant. So actually, this is also where compliancy is helping to grow the business. So I would recommend to everyone also not just try to be paper-based or tick box compliance, integrate privacy in your processes and actually make it a business case that will make you more successful in the future. And for data subjects, yes, of course, be aware of your data and work only with the trustful partners.
Thank you. So for the last part of the discussion, I would invite Dražen to present us a little bit their solution, the data privacy manager solution, and how this can help automate processes related to compliance projects.
Thank you, Roxana. So I will just try to summarize in a few minutes what actually Data Privacy Manager is doing and how we can help the companies to automate their data privacy related. So DPM is end-to-end SaaS automation platform that is helping companies to de-risk and efficiently manage their privacy governance processes. We discussed a lot of those processes today, but we can go maybe briefly through main types of those processes. So those processes start with the data discovery in structured and unstructured data repositories, and based on this discovery, company will create its data inventory. Second step is assessment. So you need to assess how processes are affecting your data privacy and data protection. You need to do legitimate interest assessment for data processing, risk assessments, and third-party assessments. Then the next step is centralization, creating of centralized knowledge base and creation of a register process activities. In next step, you manage the processes. So this is related to consent management, opt-ins, opt-outs, data breach management, fulfillment of data subject access request, and also enabling self-service data subject portal for requests and opt-ins and opt-outs. And it finishes with the removal that will include processes related for data anonymization and data removal. And of course, Data Privacy Manager is supporting organizations throughout those all steps and their whole data privacy journey. What we are doing, we are solving real-life business problems. So from paper-based compliance and tick box compliance, where that are common to most of other solutions in the market. We are mostly in database compliance and integration with other systems, and smart privacy industry solutions that are bringing business value and new revenue for our customers. That include consent management for clinical research, acceleration of privacy programs, and managing citizen personal data for municipalities. And of course, this program goes in several phases. We start with discovery and data mapping, and privacy program management that includes risks, third parties, incidents, data subjects, and extra processing activities. These first two phases don't require a lot of integration with other systems in the organization, and they can be delivered quite fast. Third phase with consent mastering is a bit more. And the last phase with a lot of integration of data flows and Privacy 360, which is actually integration of data subject data from different systems. And data removal, it's most complex and most advanced. We have two implementation models, so it's always subscription, so we are software as a service. Our recommended approach is cloud implementation model, but in case that customer require premises implementation model, we can support this. And our services include implementation of DPM, so setup, configuration, initial data load integration, consulting services that we can provide also through strong partner network in whole Europe, and training and education. Of course, we are well known worldwide. We have we are recognized by market analysts since 2019 by Gartner, Forrester, and Quadrant as one of top software vendors in pre-tech market. And finally, our customers' revenue worldwide is more than 100 billion euro, and we have really significant global and regional customers in different verticals and different industries. And of course, feel free to contact me or my colleagues for any more details that you may want to know about Data Privacy Manager or for demo and a presentation.
Thank you, Dražen. Interesting. So I think we reached the end of our discussion. I want to thank you both very, very much for your availability and for your openness to discuss these topics. And I hope that everybody that tuned in will leave with something that they found insightful or something useful for how to carry out data privacy projects in their own organization. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I hope that this will be also educational for people listening, and they will learn lots of new things about data privacy that they may have not known.